There we go. Nice little bass line going there. Well, heck, well, it's Monday night. I've invited my dear friend Tom to sit in behind me and have a little fun. We're going to have a poem by Susan, although Susan won't be here to read it, but that's all right. We'll find someone who can do it. Matter of fact, let's bring him out right now. The hostess with the mostest and the man who knows how to read Susan's poem. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sweetman, our host.
Hey, thank you very much. Oh, look, I'm in widescreen and you're in the narrowy.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Well, you know,
Well,
I mean,
I can bring it back out. There we go. Now we
are.
look kind of even.
Yeah, there you go. A little bit. Oh, yes, you know, can't have you just can't handle the fact I've got Tom Cruise right behind me. So
yeah, that's
there you
true.
go. There you go. So how's it going, Mark? What's going on?
Let me see. Like last week we had big news because of the holidays, and my daughter had her baby shower.
Has the baby?
The baby has not come yet, but it's not
right.
due. It's not due for another 11 days. So
okay, all right. That's not.
But you know, at 38 weeks, the doctor says, yeah, you should expect it any time. We just can't predict these things. You know,
you're talking to the kind of man who knows nothing about pregnancy. So or how to start one for that matter. But congratulations to your dear family and son and daughter-in-law. I mean,
yeah,
having the big event.
My youngest son is moving to. Maybe I shouldn't announce this news.
Well, yeah, shall we say he's moving?
He's moving out of the house. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Now, is this a knife point, or are you, or did he actually find?
No, that was my 30-year-old son that got moved out at knife point. The 24-year-old is going on his own. He still had 6 years before we got so sick of him we had to get a court order to get him removed. So.
Yeah, no, I believe me. As someone who slept underneath the stairs in a race car bed way too long, I understand that entirely. You know, it's the sort of thing that me and Joe the animal share, you know, in common. Sorry.
Anyway, let me see what else is going on. Here's how I do Christmas shopping.
Oh no.
My wife says, should we get the boys this or should we get the girls this? I go, well, let me look and see if it's on Amazon. And then I go, all right, it's coming. She goes, well, I didn't say we're getting it. I just had to ask you if you thought we should get it. I go, well, it's on its way now. So.
Oh my!
Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. So.
Yeah. Well, I've reached that point now where shopping is easy for me. It's just, you know, I just go out to the cemetery and I take the wreaths off certain headstones and put them on the other headstones and say, here you go, fellas. I realize it's well, first off, I'm German, so grim comes natural to me.
Right.
But, but I've reached that point where like, I'm looking around. It's like, how did I get to be the only one left? When did I become the sort of sentient life that survives everybody else? I don't get it. It wasn't supposed to be this way. But yeah, that's all right. It does make shopping a lot easier for Christmas because, I mean, even nowadays, there was a time it would just simply be, buying some weed and booze, but I don't even do that anymore. So, well, you were talking about some of your early gigs. Did you ever have to do, back in the day, Christmas on the road?
Oh yeah, that was horrible.
Really?
I think I was home in '86. But by when my son's first birthday, when he was 6 weeks old, I was home in '85 for that.
Right.
And I was home in '86, but '87, '88, '89. I mean, a lot of places you would go out and you would booked your New Year's Eve by like Memorial Day, May 30th.
What about the Christmas though? I mean,
well, let me get to that, because once you had your town that you were going to do your New Year's Eve in,
right,
then you contacted agencies and said, give me as many Christmas shows as you can,
because I'm going to be
in the area, and so from like I tried to, and I always tried to book Thanksgiving at Joey's here in Livonia.
Right.
This is back when there were only 80 comics from Detroit.
Yeah.
Now there's 80 at every open mic. But anyway, back then
I mean they're funny.
I could say, hey, I'd say to Joey, hey, you know what? I've already built up a following here. Why don't you just put me in here every Thanksgiving, and then we'll sell it out as the annual Thanksgiving show, something like that. Right. Anyway, and so then I would go and usually I'd have Sue and however many kids we have here, even if we were in LA.
Right.
And she'd fly back, and then I would do whatever town I was going to do New Year's Eve in. I'd try to book around there, and I didn't always book clubs because at Christmas time, clubs paid the least amount of money.
That was my question. What about parties or corporate events, that kind of thing?
But I did all kinds of that stuff, and they were like $1,500 to $3,000, and that's how much you got paid to headline. And I was only a middle act, so that was at that time when I first moved out to LA. I didn't get to be a headliner until I was leaving LA.
Right.
And so I would I would make 10 times the amount of money working. That was most of your money was December for the year. You're
kidding.
You'd probably make a quarter of what you made for the whole year in December.
Nice. But yeah, when you're coming back and the kids are playing Harry Chapin songs upon your arrival. And...
No, I knew I was gone too much when I went to my kids. The first time I went to one of my kids' parent-teacher conferences.
Right, and they're like, "You are."
Yeah, no. They said, "Oh," she said, "Oh, I thought you were a pilot." And I said, "Why would you say?" She said, Michael always says that he had to take you and his mother. He and his mother took you to the airport to go to work. I just thought you were a pilot or something. You'd be gone after they took you to work at the airport. Well, what else could you be? Well, I do stand-up comedy, so there you go.
Well,
anyway, you ready? We've done a lot of that opening BS
chit chat.
Are you ready for the poem? I do have a poem here.
We how could we not? Everyone, for all our viewers at home, sit down, relax, grab a cup of unsugared black coffee, and prepare yourselves for the lyrical prowess of the amazing Miss Susan.
It's a short one, but last week's was short, but we got a lot of discussion topics out of it last week.
Well, there you go.
All right, so I'm going to go to Susan's poem. Here it is, and I'm using the brand new teleprompter. I don't know what do you call it? Service feature. The teleprompter feature. Have you seen the upper right-hand corner up here? There it is. StreamYard. Is it up there? Oh no, it's over here on the other one. There we go. It's up there. Stream. I always because I look at myself as a mirror, but if you look at the screen, it's up there. It's StreamYard. Anyway, yeah, they have a new feature that has a teleprompter, so I'll be reading this from the teleprompter. Isn't that clever? All right, here we go. Here's the poem. Judge cleared Justice Department to release Epstein transcripts of grand jury. Come on, Washington, D.C., release those files and please hurry. Trump won a peace prize. Trump won a peace prize T-ball equivalent participation trophy, and FIFA should share in the shame for this embarrassing hokey. Undignified grab for a medal by an aging self-proclaimed king, and Trump is fuming that media notices his old age is a thing. Meanwhile, a Kilauea eruption took out a live stream camera that watched. The Hawaiian goddess Pele heard saying, "Stop looking at my crotch." And that is our poem for today. Let me get
leaving it on that scintillating note there.
Anyway, so did it look like I was reading from a teleprompter, or did it look like I was looking at the camera?
You looked like you were looking at the camera. It was just
it's just that I didn't rehearse, so it didn't.
Your rendition is perhaps maybe
Yeah,
another run
it
through.
probably would have helped if I read it at least 2 or 3 times before I did it live.
Just saying, I mean, we all appreciate the spontaneity of the moment. I mean, again, we don't want to dilute it in any way, shape, or
And
form, but
here's something you don't think about when I'm reading the poem. When she gives it to me every night, it's on a white piece of paper in black. When I'm looking at it on the screen, it's black background and the lettering is white. That kind of throws me off a little bit too. Listen to my excuses. That's horrible. Just excuse after
well,
excuse.
you people just don't understand the technical sort of aspects that have to be factored into this entire performance. Again, the complexities are not one that the average person should really sort of be wrestling with at this point. So at any rate, allow me to say this: I miss Sam. I was thinking about it. I know we do this every week. I know, I get it. But
I'm gonna see if I can get a hold of Barb. It might be too late, and his birthday is January 2nd, and his birthday doesn't fall conveniently near our show either.
Do you think she would join us for a
maybe
few minutes?
Well, she's a comic too.
Yeah,
So let me see what date is this second fall on this year.
It's right after the first.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm here to help.
It falls on a Friday.
There you go.
You know what we should do? I think what we should do is I'm going to ask her if she'd be willing to do something. Maybe get the daughter in there too, because the daughter really was more to do with the show than his wife.
And it would be fun to talk to them
because she controlled the iPad.
Right.
So not controlled it, but made sure it was working and stuff.
Oh, are you kidding? We know who was behind the scenes trying to get the iPad to go. I mean, after all,
whenever Sam was giving you this look, he knew he was following instructions from somebody that was standing over him.
Well, anytime you lose someone, it's always raw with a person for a little while, whether you expect it or not. But at a certain point, further on down the road, sometimes it is good to just sort of talk and reminisce a bit. And if it's time for them, if they're comfortable, I think it would be a lot of fun. I would love to hear from either one or both of them.
Well, I have to talk to Barbara, because when we went there for his memorial back in June,
right,
the weekend before Father's Day, our hotel room was like $400 a night.
Right.
Susan is singing at Carnegie Hall the same week next summer.
Right.
And I can't get a hotel room for less than $550. So,
well, welcome to
Barbara has to explain her city.
Well, I mean, dude, this is the way the world is. If I assume you make it to I know usually you send the maid and the footman out to do most of the grocery shopping. The household staff, I'm sure, takes care of most of that. But when you have to actually go out and personally purchase things, you might notice that they've moved now to this digital tagging that allows them to change prices based on what's known as dynamic pricing, which is to say, how much do you got? How badly you want this?
Here's how I know about dynamic pricing, right? My youngest son is going to Los Angeles to do some job hunting out there, stay with his brother out there.
Right.
And so I'm going to go with him. So we're going to do a couple of shows in January from LA again, but you've seen that studio, you know how that works. And so he's on his browser.
Yes.
Looking at prices, and we're going through and we're doing the same thing. We just want to do different dates. And I'm noticing same data, same flight, same date, same number of passengers. His flights were about $40 less each way than mine were. So they must factor in something about
age.
Well, age and who flew more, or how many people.
I don't say that just to be flippant. They just simply say, okay, he's older, he probably has more income.
Yeah.
And we can charge him more.
Yeah, and
younger person is going to be a little more conscious.
Yeah.
It is the sort of thing. Now, that I am a rock rib Reagan-esque Republican. And how many times
you remind us of it all the time.
And if I didn't, you guys reminded you introduced me as the gay Republican all the time, and we all know.
remember when gay Republican was a compliment? Oh,
You remember when it meant something? I mean, now that we have Lindsey Graham, I mean,
oh my God.
yeah, I know. It's just, my point being is that I have a certain dedication to the free market system. I have degrees in economics and studied, but I have reached the point now where I wish to take the executives of many of these large corporations and beat them to death with a coal shovel on a live stream and then urinate on their still twitching corpses. Now, that's not necessarily the most capitalist approach to
Yeah.
the free market. However, I think there's a lot of people who would say that, well, we don't necessarily think that was good for family viewing. We have to appreciate the verve. And while I'm being somewhat rhetorical here, obviously, we do have Luigi. You remember Luigi, the
Yeah,
guy who,
just
the
saw
guy
him on the
who,
news. Just saw him on the news tonight. It's a
yeah,
year
that's
ago
right.
today. It's a year ago today. They arrested
Yeah,
him.
yeah, the guy who made
And
sure
the
there was
police made mistakes. They may be able to get some of that evidence thrown out because of the way the police arrested him.
Two things. First off, I appreciate that he made sure there was an opening at the top. I like that. And that can mean so many things, really.
That can mean so many things. He was
Second
cute.
off,
That guy was a cute blonde. That was quite an opening at the top.
yeah, quite, yeah. And the other thing is, first off, I mean, this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I mean, first off, Luigi comes from a well-to-do family that owns plural country clubs.
Can
Not
I say?
one,
Can I?
many.
You can go back to your rant here in just a second.
Yeah.
Let me get your rant.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let me get your rant scroll. Let me get your rant scroller out here, and we'll put that up as you go to your. Okay, but haven't you noticed, like in the last 2, maybe 3 years, the killers or the people that went off and did goofy stuff or embarrassed their people were not the ones you expected. You didn't expect it to be a Trump supporter that shot the kid in Utah, and you didn't expect it. You know what I mean?
I don't think he was a Trump supporter. I mean,
whatever.
Well, when he came from a Trump supporting family, you can certainly. Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, his family, again, very rock ribbed Republican. I mean, it's Utah after all.
Another thing you aren't expecting, both him and Luigi, both these guys, pretty much didn't go running away. I mean, Luigi kind of hid, but he didn't. He wasn't running away.
I mean, with the kind of resources he could have gotten on the family jet and gone to Belize.
Same with the kid in Utah. He was more worried that his grandpa wouldn't get his gun back.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I mean, he is a Republican when he does note that it was a $3,000 scope that was on his rifle. I mean, so. I mean,
that's not in the Democrats' budget.
No. Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, whatever, I mean, the communist Lee Harvey Oswald used a cheap rifle from an Italian mail order company.
Meanwhile, the desperately poor are going. That's why we strap explosives to ourselves.
Well,
we got to get close enough. We got to get close enough to do some real damage.
Well, the nice thing is at least one of the kids has their own room later on that night, so there's that.
Are you ready? Are you ready to go? Here you go. Here's your. Well, here
I go. Rant time. I have to say this, Mark. I was in the sauna earlier today, and I still had, a little bit of dignity, and a towel was still wrapped around my waist. So, I mean, we hadn't broken any laws yet.
That's about as close as you get to dignity.
At this point, me and dignity should not even be in the same sentence. I mean, if there's a book with the word dignity in it, it would burst into flames in my hands. As I was pointing out while I was in the locker room, that I now look like, sort of Timu Ron Jeremy that's been merged with a lawn Buddha. And Ray
Timu. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can't just let that one go by. That's a classic. Timu
Ron Jeremy. Yeah, genetically merged with a cheap lawn Buddha. And who's just exactly, and who's just done the nightmarish speedball of Ozempic and Viagra, and you put those two things together, and you get what, a desperate aging fat guy with a chubby which could mean a lot of things, it just, yeah, and you just look at yourself in the mirror and how did it come to this? I mean, but getting back to our killers, but hey, folks, it's the holiday season, so yes, we're going to talk about the murderers.
It's the holiday
Season, click
season.
clack, loading up the AK-47. Dude, I mean, Luigi didn't get on the family jet and run. He was like eating McDonald's in Pittsburgh, and he has his manifesto. I mean, who doesn't leave home without their manifesto when they go in to get an egg McMuffin? I know I have mine.
How about the guy? How about the guy
None of this
in?
makes sense.
How about the guy in Idaho that was the criminology professor or graduate?
Yeah,
graduate
Colbert, yeah, right, yeah.
Oh
Well,
man,
yeah, but that guy. Look, I make jokes about being out of serial killer central because I mean, come on, look at me. I'm playing into type, right? I
right.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, instead of the Mr. Potato Head, I've got the BTK killer outfit, so I can put the random serial killer attributes on my favorite vegetable, whether they're in the wheelchair or not. And at any rate, Kohlberg or whatever the guy, Brian Kohlberg, yeah, he was notoriously difficult, and he had the same way with women. I hate to make yet another Joe the Animal reference, but he does understand why women don't like hand puppets. Whereas Brian Kohlberg never could figure out why women don't like hand puppets. At least Joe had.
But the thing is, he was not an unattractive guy.
I don't know. Have you ever seen him like in broad daylight? It wasn't good. I mean,
He looks better in the dark behind a curtain. Is that what you're saying?
well, as so many do. I mean, that's how most of my liaisons have been conducted. You've been a well-adjusted married man for many years, and you have a large family.
42 and a half.
Me, on the other hand, I've been a reprobate for most of my life, and while I haven't been busted for public indecency recently, it's not the sort of thing that I, figure too prominently on my resume. It's Which again, it's crazy, dude. I don't know what's going on in this crazy ass world. I do know that with this whole AI thing, and now there are new levels of corporate greed that have just gone off scale, and they're going to end up like uniting a lot of people, be they Republicans or other people together, who are going to say
that's going to happen.
enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, and I watched Mayor Duggan's interview. He got interviewed by one of the top guys at the Detroit Economic Club.
Is it like a farewell address or something?
Yeah, it was like his farewell interview.
Okay.
And so, and of course, they asked him. It's that type of questions, the softball questions that you're going to ask a guy in his last 3 weeks of being the top guy in Detroit.
Will you miss the Manugie and that kind of thing?
Yeah. What was your best day?
Right.
What's the thing that you got past that you're proudest of? What was your worst day? And so finally, they come to the end.
Where's Jimmy Hoffa?
Yeah, exactly. Before they take audience questions,
yeah,
he says, "So, do you have any plans?" Well, of course, everybody in the room knew he's already announced he's running for governor.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
But he's running as an independent, and he might be running as an independent at just the right time. First of all, he ran for mayor of Detroit, where they don't have parties on the ticket.
Right.
If you don't get 50 point
whatever
if you don't get one vote more than 50% of the vote in the primary, if you get more than more than half, you get to be the mayor. If you fall below 50%, whoever's second, you could get 45%, and the other 18 candidates divide the other 5%.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And you'd still get you go against whoever was second place. Well, anyway, and then he's telling a story about this, and he was a Wayne County prosecutor who became the CEO of the Detroit Medical Center.
Right.
So really, how do you classify him now? Is he a Democrat when he's prosecuting criminals? Is he a Republican? Is he a Republican when he's running a a private hospital. You know what I mean? And so
I'm not sure these terms mean anything anymore, Mark.
I know, but here's what I'm saying is he's been able to, and then he runs for the mayor of a major city that had just gone into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
He pulls them out. Nobody wants to believe me. I have to take him to Detroit. So and because most of these people that say they never go to Detroit haven't been there to see how bad it was 12 years ago when he took over during a bankruptcy. But anyway, I mean, I think he's got a chance, especially because it's Michigan. It's a swing state. The difference is,
God knows I'm a swing stater.
Exactly. Well, we all know that.
Well,
but anyway,
not shy.
The thing that goes against him is Michigan's a swing state because there's probably about 5% of the electorate that swings one way or the other, where the other 95% all know which way they're going to vote. You know what I mean? So it's not like,
well,
I don't think
we've been called the GDI state for GD independent for a long time. And remember, we used to elect very conservative people and people like David Bonnier. I mean, George Bush would win the presidential race, and yet David Bonnier, who was his chief tormentor, would also win. You know, and so I think Dugan running as independent is a brilliant move, because what he's going to get is he's going to siphon off a lot of Republican votes, because you're right. There are some people who won't vote for a Democrat no matter what.
During his 12 years, he and Jamie Dimon, do you know who Jamie Dimon is?
Oh, yes, I do. Yep.
CEO of
Goldman Sachs. JP Morgan?
No, JP Morgan Chase.
Okay.
JP Morgan Chase.
Yeah. We all know the Jews are behind it all. But go ahead.
But Jamie Dimon and Mike Duggan became great friends in the 12 years.
Yeah.
And it was like they were such good friends that if Dimon sent one of his lieutenants to Detroit, because I guess they put like $500 million in. So we think about all this.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is, all these new young entrepreneurs didn't have the money until you had this New York money coming in and saying, you know, we like what's going on here. And Duggan's telling the story today about how Jamie Dimon would fly to Detroit if one of his lieutenants said something, and then he'd call Duggan and he'd say, "Hey, this guy's telling me this." He goes, "Well, you better come here and take a look then."
Right.
because everybody was like, you know, and then he had to stop sending anti-Detroit people because Dimon had seen Detroit as it were, diamond in the rough.
Well, I mean, you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But we had, not that long ago, skyscrapers that were, if not abandoned, they were certainly empty, full blown. That people were able to purchase and rehabilitate for a fraction.
There are three. I'll count even. I can think of four now that were at least 12 stories tall.
Yeah.
And when Detroit started building, anything over 7 was considered a skyscraper. You know, now 7 is just a small apartment building now. But I mean, but there were at least 4 of these skyscrapers. The Lafayette Building.
Yes.
The
building across the street from the Cadillac. Remember? Yeah, I can never remember the name of it.
I know the one you're talking about, but that's gone. The one that's across the street from Cliff Bell's.
Yes.
Park Avenue. I'm trying to think of the name.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
The
one around the corner from the Guardian Glass building.
Well, the Guardian. No, the one that was taken down by the Guardian building, that would have been the Lafayette building. It was right next to Lafayette, Coney Island. That building that towered over, that shadow. Yeah, sunlight hits Lafayette, Coney Island where it didn't before because there were so many tall buildings around it, you know?
Right.
That one's gone, and I felt bad about that. My grandfather had an office there when he was alive, and I felt bad about that one.
Well, there have also been buildings that have been rehabilitated because they were bought.
A lot of buildings have been rehabilitated.
You know, they for $100,000 a floor in terms of purchase price and rehabilitation, whereas the build was $10 million.
Right.
So, you know, so they're like, you know what? I mean, we have modern facilities, modern buildings just waiting for basically some Wi-Fi and someone to clean the dust filter.
And we had a theater district. We had the second largest theater district behind Broadway.
That's what I try and tell people, is that they don't understand that Detroit used to be a major stop
The Adams is gone.
Yeah.
The United Artists is gone. The Michigan
Yep.
Theater is gone. The Madison is gone. The there's not, what was that other one that was right around the corner from the Madison?
But the Masonic Temple is still here, thank goodness.
Oh, thank goodness. Thanks to Jack. Thanks to Jack White.
Is he the one who helped
When
stabilize the?
when they were gonna take it for taxes,
Uh,
he came up with $140,000 that they were short on their tax bill.
right. Yeah, because that again, that's the Masonic. For those who've never been, it's like you are stepping back into time. It's a wonderful, amazing place to go see something. A great venue.
I remember when Susan and I were young, before we had kids, we used to sneak in there all the time. We knew all. I mean, it is such a huge place. Oh, seriously,
Yeah,
all we had to do was go in there and look for a door. You might have to go up
I
seven
just
flights. You might have to go up 7 flights of stairs to go across to the other side of the block to go down another 7 flights to get to where the auditorium doors were open.
I can
But
just see
we
Susan.
could
You
we could always
distract the
get in there.
guard. You distract
Exactly.
the guard. I'll get in behind
Exactly.
him. I'll get up to the 7th floor and throw you down a rope.
Dun 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 dun.
Scaling up the side of the building and yeah. Ever since they took down the Hudson, okay, we all again, for those of us who don't remember, the Hudson was basically it was never going to be rehabilitated. It was a building that kind of sort of had to go, but when it left a really big empty space, and it was hard to fill that again because there has been economic turmoil.
I have,
Um,
I have one of the best. I have one of the best Hudson stories.
oh no, all right, I'm waiting.
When we were poor, because we got married, our wedding date was a month after our graduation date from Wayne State. We lived downtown in Cadillac Square,
Mm-hmm.
and Hudson's. Right, we used to go over to Hudson's and go up to the card shop. I think it was the 5th floor or something like that.
Right.
And that was great shopping too, because they had like 16 stories
Yeah.
of shopping, and it wasn't like the Hudson's of today where you have a downstairs, you have a basement, a first floor, and a second floor. That was your
Right.
Hudson's or Macy's in the suburban malls. This was the good old. Yeah, when you go to New York,
Yeah.
Macy's is still that way. They take up a whole block. Hudson's took up a whole block, But anyway, we used to go there and we would pick out a card for each other and exchange it there. Then we put it back in the rack, and we wouldn't. That way, we wouldn't spend money on greeting cards. And we didn't have $5 greeting cards like we have today. These were 35 cents. We still didn't have that money. We used to go to Wendy's and order the potato, which at that time was about 50 cents.
Yes.
And we'd go to the condiment counter. Yeah. And we'd take spoons and napkins and salt bags and ketchup, all these we'd throw them in a bag with our 2 baked potatoes and then go home to our apartment. And that's how we kept ourselves in silverware and napkins.
But interesting flatware you people have.
Getting back to Hudson's, that's where my parents met. My dad worked in the furniture department. My mom worked in luggage, but they also sold purses and umbrellas.
Right.
And that's where my parents met. So I'm not here without Hudson's.
My mother told me, your Christmas shopping wasn't done till you'd been to Hudson's, even if all you were doing was buying a pair of gloves for your mother-in-law or something. You had to go to Hudson's at least once to just go down there, and of course, again, in my parents' time, getting on a bus to go to Detroit was no problem. That's what you did. I mean, obviously that changed later on. One of my favorite sort of stories of Detroit is Bob Seger's back in '72 when he's talking about Sheriff Gribbs and all some of the shenanigans that went on. For those who lived in and around Detroit, you understand.
It was Sheriff McNichols.
Yes.
And it was Roman Gribbs was the.
Well, he became mayor. Sheriff Gribbs became mayor of Detroit. Yeah.
And was he sheriff first?
He was sheriff first.
We're gonna find that. We're gonna find out.
Yeah. Sheriff Gribbs with his grim ad libs. Yeah. If you ever listen to the back in '72 is one of these
lineage of Detroit sheriffs.
If you ever or just look up Roman Gribbs.
The Detroit sheriff's lineage refers to the succession of leaders.
All right, hold on. Roman Gribbs. Oh my God, there he is. Oh, he didn't die until 2016.
What took him so long?
You know what? They have him as mayor and as judge, but I don't see anything in here about sheriff.
Well, Bob Seger says he was, so I don't know. We'll have to take it up with Bob.
Bob Seger, lyrics to Back in '72.
There's also a great little passage there about Ann Arbor, where he talks about the pessimistic pseudo-intellectuals. That again is a reference to the college town of his birth.
Oh, he did say Sheriff Gribbs.
Yep, and his grim ad libs.
Yeah. Who is Bob Seger referring to in the song Back in '72 when he says Sheriff Gribbs?
My God,
Sheriff Gribbs in Back in '72 isn't a real person. It's a fictional character, a symbol of authority, representing the rules and local power structures that Seeger likely. The song captures that time of youthful rebellion.
Just listen to the damn song, people. It's an album that Bob is never allowed to be released on CD because he does not own it. Punch his former manager ended up with the rights to that album. I don't know how or why that all worked out the way it did.
He and Punch are still friends.
Well, for whatever reason, that Punch ended up with the rights to it. There's another great song from that album, Rosalie, which was about the program manager.
The programmer at
CKLW, right? Yeah.
Trombley, Rosalie Trombley.
Rosalie Trombley, yeah. And
they do so many of these musicals where they take songs that were, popular songs back in the day, like Moulin Rouge is a bunch of old songs, old popular recordings, and there've been other stories like that where they take the old songs, but to do a story about Rosalie Trombley, and do a musical about that would be a great story.
She like advised David Bowie to release like Panic in Detroit as a single. Again, that people don't remember because again, AM radio does not matter anymore. But
she died in Leamington in 2021.
Yep, but she was a power broker for years in the music business because if she said you were Rosalie, there you go with Bob. If she said you were on, baby, you were on. That was it. You of course.
Well, what's great about it is she was as powerful as she was very soft and humble, and
Well, she was Canadian, Mark.
What's that?
She was Canadian.
She was Canadian.
It's Canadian.
Well, if I write the musical, we'll have to include that part that she was Canadian in there. So.
We'll have her portrayed by the ghost of B. Arthur. And
you hear a lot of these old Motown acts and a lot of these old Grandy Ballroom, punk rock bands and everything like that. Yeah. Talk about how they'd be sitting together at the CKLW television studios because they did Robin Seymour's something.
I haven't heard Robin Seymour's name in 30
years. They did
Robin
but they'd be sitting in the green room together.
Right.
And they were like comparing notes. I heard Alice Cooper talking about this one time.
Yes.
Because the TV shows, the scene,
right?
Swing Time. That was it. Robin Seymour's Swing Time.
Yes.
The scene, Swing Time. There were all these other. There were a ton of shows out of Detroit.
Right.
And of course, major record labels were here. So, but it was fun hearing Alice Cooper tell that story. Was kind of cool.
He was talking about one of his earlier gigs in Detroit, very early, when, as we all know, Alice has been theatrical, and he goes, back then my prop going out on stage was a mop. It was still a bit low budget. It was so he's out there singing to a mop and dancing with it on stage, and obviously things kind of picked up for him a little later on in the 70s, as it were. But yeah, I mean, I grew up down the street from the Stooges. Here in Ann Arbor, we had a huge music scene. And
there was somebody talking about Stooges on Michigan Public the other day.
Yes.
And they kept referring to Iggy as Jim.
Yeah, Jim. Well, that's the way that's the way they talk to him, Jim Jewel Oysterberg. When I knew the Stooges, I used to cut Ron and Scott Ashton's lawn. Well, actually, their mom. They lived with their mom, and
there was a third Ashton. Wasn't there a third Ashton? There was Ron and Scott.
No, there might have, but well, those were the two that I knew. They still lived with mom for way too long.
Right.
I think it was just those two. Their dad had passed away. When they were both fairly young.
Ashton brother of the Iggy Stooges. A third Ashton brother. Ron Ashton.
Should be Ron and Scott, as far as I know.
Scott Ashton.
Both deceased.
Ron. Both of them played bass. Ron played guitar until that other guy they hooked up with.
James Williamson.
James Williamson, yeah, something or Richardson, Williamson, something like that.
Yeah.
And then Ron went back to
bass.
Went back to bass.
Yeah.
Who's Dave Alexander?
I think he played drums for them.
Oh, I thought Scott played drums.
You're right. Scott was the drummer. It might have been the bass player. It might have been someone who just was in the band. I mean, at some point. I mean,
Dave Alexander was the bassist when Ron was playing.
Ron was playing.
When the other guy came, when Richardson came along, I guess Alexander was out because Ron then played bass.
Yeah,
and he was taught how to play bass by Iggy. Iggy taught him how to play.
Yeah, well,
Iggy played drums in the first band he was in.
Right.
Where he learned how to play bass, and then he played bass for a little while in another band. But he was just the lead. They didn't want to waste him on anything other than lead singer.
They were a few years. They were about 7 years older than me. They were a couple years older than my older brother was good friends with the both of them because he was the same age. And these guys at that time, dude, they were just a band down the street. You know, the MC5 was the big band around here. That was the one that everyone wanted to be. And my brother was at one of those farm parties out in the field, and Ted Nugent's out there playing guitar. I mean, this is again back in the day.
James Williamson was the guy's name.
James Williamson. Okay, yeah, I think he's on Raw Power. Memory serves.
Yep.
Because I remember them talking about that. I remember listening to Scott Ashton. If I'm not mistaken, because he was at my friend's house. He's like, well, we've had this British guy help us out, David Bowie. And, because David Bowie, I saw David Bowie the time that I saw David Bowie, my older brother, in an act of unusual mercy on his part, grabbed me, busted me out of junior high, took me down to Detroit to, I forget, it was like the Magic Bag or one of the theaters. And I caught one of the last Ziggy Stardust shows. It was right before he decided to change. Well, you know how Bowie was back then. He'd have a persona, disappear for 2 weeks, come back with a new persona. You know, I mean, just because his music was like, it had to be like in, I want to say fall of '73, maybe. So I would have to look it up, dude. But it was. It's more than 50 years ago now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a drummer for Iggy. He didn't play with the Stooges, but when Iggy did some solo albums later.
Right. Yeah.
Was Soupy Sales' son.
Yeah, Tony or Hunt.
Hunt Sales. Hunt. He did that very famous drum intro from Lust for Life.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the most sought after. He and his brother are both two of the most sought after session musicians in the business. I mean, just because their dad was Soupy, these guys were very, very serious musicians. They were part of Tin Machine with David Bowie. So again, those guys, it wasn't like Dino, Don, and Dizzy.
I gotta tell you something. It's just too bad that you weren't around comedy when we had Soupy Sales and Pat Paulson and Tom Sharp and some of these old timers that would come into town. God, they were fun.
Yes. I have a picture here. I've got to get it digitized so I can put it up of me with Tommy Chong. And I drove him to the airport. This was he was doing a stand-up routine just solo, and he had his new wife with him. He was explaining, to show you how young she was, he was explaining to her who Jodie Foster was. She didn't know, and this was after
What
Jody.
year was this? Because I worked with him.
Mid 90s. This was after Jody had won for her turn with the pinball machine, which that movie.
Yeah, I got a picture of me and him in '96.
This would have been right around then. It would have
He
been.
was working the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase.
Yes, that's where I picked him up from. Yeah.
I was his feature act, but that was Shelby. Shelby was not his new wife. She's been with him a long time.
Well, this was a really young British girl that he was. Was she British?
Oh, British? No, she wasn't British.
She was I thought. Well, I thought she was his wife. Maybe not, but he was explained to her who he was certainly seemingly amorously inclined. I thought
Do you know that Tommy Chong? A lot of people don't know this. He was with Motown.
Yeah.
Before he was with Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, he's a brilliant guitarist.
And he was he did a lot of the orchestrations, the chart music for their live shows.
You're kidding?
Well, because a lot of those recordings they did improvisational.
Yes.
We got a drum. All right, here's your drum. All right, here comes your bass beat. All right, here's your guitar. Here's your keyboards. All right, let's put in the music. Let's sing the song. All right, Tommy, chart all that stuff for us.
Yeah, exactly. We need. Well, yeah, because
we need the sheet music for that.
Well, you need that for copyright purposes. You have to transcribe it, and then it gets sent in for. But that's where Fingertips 1 and 2, Little Stevie Wonder. There's that one part. That's why it's in part 1 and 2. You hear the fade out, and then the band starts playing his fade out music, and all of a sudden Stevie starts playing again, and then the band picks it up again, and they go a couple more stanzas. And that's again, for those who listen to Detroit radio. That was the one you didn't hear. Fingertips Part 1. You heard Fingertips Part 1 and 2. Yeah, you got the whole thing here because that was the way the music was. That's AM radio was good. FM radio came along and it was better. And God, I hate to look back to this.
It was better. It was better sound, and if you were high, it might have been better programming. But
well, you worked at the radio station. You worked at a radio station, didn't you? I mean,
I worked at WJR in the 80s, and in the 90s, I worked at KQI with Dick Purton.
Did you ever do the college radio, the college FM thing, or no?
I did. I worked at Susan and I met at WAYN at Wayne State.
Okay. Because you also had down there WDET, which is also
WDET. Now DET was owned by Wayne State,
right?
But it was gifted to Wayne State by the UAW.
Okay.
And for as long as Doug Frazier was alive, he made sure that radio station was all about the workers.
Yes, God, I miss Doug Frazier. So Leonard Woodcock, but despite the unfortunate name,
Leonard Woodcock. Well, it depends. Maybe if he wasn't an auto worker, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. He's got to would have been producing male only films, but enough of that.
Exactly.
But DET, much like WEMU, which has the best jazz portfolio of really, or a library of, or really any station I've ever heard, but DET was wild.
Anytime I went over to DET, and I did a few times. I mean, I had friends that were over there, and we'd kind of hang out there, but I couldn't get airtime there. That's why I was at WAYN,
right?
Which was a small little, what do you call it? Low license. The small
exactly.
License.
The small, it's low power license,
right. Just for the campus and stuff.
Like CBN is here in Ann Arbor. You can hear it on the western edges of the city.
Exactly. Yeah. We've got one here in Livonia. We've got one just for weather emergency. I mean, that's all anybody ever turns into the Livonia station for, because you can't hear it outside of Livonia. It's just a very low power station.
Back when I was a taxi cab dispatcher, I used to love to make jokes about my captive audience. I mean. Yeah, because back when we did voice dispatch. But anyway,
anytime I went over to DET, they always let you know that was the studio that gave the world the Lone Ranger, because they produced the Lone Ranger. That used to be the old DET studios were the former WXYT radio and television studios.
Right.
I mean, you just can't imagine how they did television there. But then they weren't really producing television shows; they were producing radio shows. And with radio, it doesn't need to be big. You just have to make it sound like it's a big place, And
again, to go back in time, people forget that radio was once the most dominant media platform.
When I went to WJR, my senior year. I did a full year internship there, and it was a paid internship. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done a whole year because I got married that same year. But Studio A in the Great Tower of the Fisher Building, the Golden Dome of the Fisher Building.
That's right.
The 21st floor. Studio A still had audience seating.
Yes.
And it still had a bandstand, and it was still a 1940s radio station. But they just did J.P. McCarthy, Jimmy Lance,
right?
Tiger Baseball, that type of stuff.
Didn't JR also spawn one of our first TV stations? So, like JBK or Channel 2 or Channel 4?
WJ, I could look it up because WJR owned the Lions. That's how WJR had a 50,000 watt clear channel, could hear it all the way to Nebraska.
Yes, you
and
could.
all the way down to Georgia and all the way east to New York. And so the guy who owned the Lions said we should do a Thanksgiving Day game, and that's how Detroit got the Thanksgiving Day game, because the guy that owned the Lions also owned WJR. Let me see.
Well, you being a traveling comedian, there must have been times, or I don't know if you ever had like an AM radio and like to tune
when I moved to LA in 1980.
Moving involves actions, feelings.
All right, that's enough. Hey, shut up. When I was moving to LA back in 1987, I had moved out there in 84 and was staying with my brother, address wise. In other words, I wanted to give an appearance that I was in LA. Because they would
LA-based comedian
Mark Sweetman. Improv would not book me if I wasn't in LA.
Right.
So I just, my brother lived right around the corner from him, so then that worked. But then when we actually moved the Fumia out there, it was 87. And I don't know if you remember 87 or not, but that's the year that the Tigers made the playoffs.
I'm well familiar with their work.
And so I'm riding out there in October. They're playing Kansas City, I think.
Yeah.
And I could have listened to the Kansas City station driving out there, into Oklahoma, and I think I heard it all the way through Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But I picked up Ernie Harwell on WJR.
Oh yeah, because at night on AM,
it was night, and it was October night too, so it was very, you know what I mean. It was, the sun was behind the planet.
That's why there's been many a lonely traveling comedian who said Art Bell helped get them through the night because they'd leave one locale and they'd have to be at another locale, and Art Bell would be, broadcasting his UFO and
comics. We never talked about it. We never talked about it in the series, but comics would always joke about how, what are the songs you always hear on the road? Hitching a Ride. You heard it, Hitching a Ride every night. If you were spinning the dial. Because you don't want to hear farm reports every hour. The farm stats are not going to change in the middle of the night. If pork bellies are going to go up and down, it's going to happen during the day. It's not going to happen at night.
And pork belly means something very different to me anyway. So
we don't. So
by the way, that 8:53. So the big songs back then were Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Yeah.
Hitching a Ride. Heard a lot of Radar Love.
Don't forget Driver's Seat, Sniffing the Tears, late 70s, one of the last great AM sort of singles, because you'd hear that on AM a lot back in the day.
Later, when we got into that but when we got later into the 80s, after I heard a lot of Christopher Cross Sailing. Huey Lewis and the News.
The News, yes, yeah.
A big band, that was big in the upper Midwest. They weren't from there, but they were really, you heard them a lot out there, was Cult of Personality.
Yes.
I can't remember the name.
Living Color was the name
Living
of the band.
Color, that was it.
Which was the first sort of black heavy metal. They weren't really the first, but they were one of the first to receive a large.
There's a band in Detroit.
The Detroit Murder.
No, Death. It was called Death.
Well, I was close.
But one of the members of that band had gone to an Alice Cooper concert and says, "Oh, guys, we got it all wrong." So they bought Alice Cooper albums and Stooges and started listening to that, and then they became the first black metal band.
Yep.
Very cool stuff.
So what was it? Would you like? Oh gosh, I don't know. This probably, we save this for another. The nightmare stories of the comedy condo. The bleary-eyed comedian come.
You know what?
In.
That would be one I should probably see if I can get a few of my friends to join us on that one. That would be
because there had to have been a few stories from from back in the day when the comedy condo was a thing.
You know, here's how I think that's going to go. I would start with a list of all the people that would have the best condo stories.
Yes.
And then I'd start calling up and saying, "Is this guy still alive?" I want him on my show. I don't want to be insensitive and ask around if he's alive or not. Like John Fox, Frankie Bastille,
right?
Just all of these classic guys.
Yeah,
the comedy condo story.
Reach him by phone or Ouija board. Yeah, you know it. Dennis Miller tells one of the better stories. If I mean, he's talking about how at one point during his career, he's like every place is like the other one, and the hygiene was a little bit less than. He's like showering, and he notices like the Andromeda strain is on the shower curtain, and he says, and he's clipping his toenails, and then he notices a toenail clipping at another comedy condo, and he picks it up, puts it up to his toe, and it fits. And that sounds to me like these stories of many of a road comedian out there doing the road dog.
There is a line, and I attribute it to Gary Kern. I'm not sure it was he that actually told it, but he says, "Well, I did what most feature comics do in this business. I went to the mall and watched the headliner buy stuff."
Yeah. Go to the movies. Yeah. You know, that.
Oh, God. We were such movie critics. Oh, my God. It was so fun.
You know, I mean,
I got a great movie star. How much time I got left? And we're at.
We got 2.5, 3 minutes.
All right. I'm with Rami Angelic and Peter Moore. Peter from San Francisco, Rami from Chicago. I'm from LA by this time. I'm
right.
But we're touring and we're in the Panhandle, like Panama City or something like that.
Right.
We go to see it had Mary Steenburgen in it, and it was like Winter Chill or Winter's Bone or Winter something or other. But anyway, so we're in this, and there's these 4 college bros behind us. And they're talking, and the movie's starting, and she's like puts up with it because it's just sort of like the music's playing and they're running.
Right.
But the movie started, and she turns around to these guys and she says, "Would you guys please be quiet? We paid money to watch this movie, not to hear you guys talk. Please."
Right.
And she turns back. We get into this movie about 15 minutes. It was horrible. She turns back to the guys and goes, "You guys can start talking again." One of my favorite comics at a movie story.
Hey, I'm curious. Serious. How much did the cell phone change when you get? Because all of a sudden, when you're on the road now you have some kind of a connection back home. Even if back in the day the cell phone was kind of expensive. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had pagers.
Yes. And we had those cards that allowed you to dial about 18 cards. You had to dial about 18 codes to get a dial tone, and then you could whatever you wanted to.
And then you could call home the long distance cards.
Now I joined a group called ZTEL through Sheila Kay. She got me into it, but it was like a multi-level marketing type thing.
Oh, my goodness.
And what they did was they bought a bunch of space on Sprint and MCI and AT&T. And then you could do the same thing through their lines. And so we sold them to other comics. So it was a way to make money too.
Yeah, that's a B story for a Sopranos episode. I like it. The calling cards. Well, you watch the Sopranos, dude. You watch the change in the cell phone tech, because that show wraps before the iPhone. And
absolutely.
It's sort of an interesting touchstone, but I just was curious because, again, you're on the road, and there was an expression, "We can't reach him. He's in the car," and that's no longer an operative.
Yeah, there was always somebody. I had my wife, but guys that didn't have their wife always had like a book. They had guys like Yoder and Tom Sobel and Ridley.
Right.
That always kind of knew that something worked. That's how you get managers. Some of these club owners became managers not because they knew anything about managing careers, but because they were the ones that the club could be in contact with all the time.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like we're going out here, Mark. Looks like that you do that.
Sure does. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We're here every Monday night. at 8 o'clock Eastern time. It's 5 o'clock on the West Coast. And you figure out if you're somewhere else in the world, one, send us a message, let us know where you're watching from. But if you're somewhere else, just figure it out. You know, New York and LA, other than that, would come to you in between and outside of those 2 time zones. So join us every Monday night at 8. It's always Jason. It's always Mark. We have Andy. We have Susan that weren't able to make it tonight, but they'll be back. They're always a good part of the show. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Thanks. Miss you, Sam.
Miss you, Sam.